One moment. That's all it took. 1 second, you're just another face in the crowd. The next, you're exposed in front of tens of thousands, and millions more are about to watch your life unravel frame by frame. A Coldplay concert, a packed stadium, a Jumbotron, and the kids cam what captured more than just a cringe. It captured the collapse of a man who had everything to lose. Andy Byron wasn't a celebrity. He wasn't a tabloid regular. He was a quiet giant in the tech world, the CEO of a powerful AI company, a father, a husband, and a man who spent years building a perfect public image. But what that camera caught wasn't his wife. And the way he and the woman beside him reacted told the world everything it needed to know. Within hours, his face was everywhere. TikTok, Reddit, Twitter, Instagram. It wasn't just awkward, it was damning. And by the time the concert was over, so was the life Andy Byron had spent decades curating. This is the unfiltered, untouchable story of how a Jumbotron kiss destroyed a marriage, a career, and a multi-million-dollar empire in less than 60 seconds. And the wildest part? It only gets worse from here. It started like any ordinary concert. The lights were blinding, the crowd electric, phones glowing like stars in a sea of people. Coldplay was on fire, the energy was palpable, and in that chaos of music and movement, one man, Andy Byron, thought he could disappear. He wasn't in the VIP section, no security detail, no flashy entrance, just another guy in the stands. Or so it seemed. But sitting beside him wasn't his wife. It was Kristen Kabat, the head of human resources at his own company, Astronomer, and they weren't exactly giving off coworker energy. Then it happened. The Jumbotron zoomed in, the crowd cheered, and the kiss cam landed right on them, crystal clear, broadcast for tens of thousands to see. Panic. Kristen whipped her face away, hands over her mouth. Andy slumped down behind the railing like a teenager caught sneaking out. And then the moment that sealed their fate. Chris Martin, Coldplay's seating singer, leaned into the mic and said it loud enough for the world to hear. "Oh, look at these two. All right, come on, you're okay. Oh, what?" Either they're having an affair or they're just very shy. That wasn't just a comment. That was a confirmation. In seconds, the internet had the clip, and in less than an hour, it was everywhere, sliced, stitched, and stitched again with reactions, remixes, and breakdowns. TikTok exploded. Reddit didn't hold back. Reddit sleuths were already on the case. And that's when the real damage began. Because this wasn't just a random, awkward moment. This was the unraveling of a tech titan's entire life. Before the kiss cam, hardly anyone outside the tech world had heard of Andy Byron. He wasn't a celebrity. He wasn't flashy. He was one of those guys quietly shaping the future from behind a sleek boardroom table, the CEO and co-founder of Astronomer, a rising force in artificial intelligence and data orchestration. We're talking multi-million-dollar contracts with government agencies, Fortune 500 companies, the works. In the tech space, Andy was seen as a visionary, the kind of executive who preached about leadership, innovation, and building a modern workplace rooted in trust. A thought leader, a panel regular, a LinkedIn poster boy for corporate culture done right. But that's just one version of him. On social media, Andy curated the perfect life. A beautiful wife, Megan Carrie Ann Byron, 2 children, clean-cut suits, motivational quotes about fatherhood, employee empowerment, and integrity. His feed looked like a checklist for a wholesome American dream. Loyal husband, present father, ethical leader. It was all so polished, almost too polished. Because the version of Andy Byron caught on the Jumbotron wasn't the one he'd spent years presenting to the world. That version wasn't talking about ethics. He was hiding behind a railing next to his head of HR as the Coldplay frontman casually and publicly hinted at an affair. And once the internet had a name to go with the face, it took less than a day to dig up everything.
The man who built his brand on trust was now being roasted by the very algorithms he helped power.
If Andy Byron's presence on that Jumbotron was shocking, Kristen Kabat's role made it explosive. This wasn't some anonymous intern or harmless fan. Kristen was the chief people officer at Astronomer, the person responsible for safeguarding company culture, setting ethical boundaries, and yes, enforcing policies about inappropriate relationships in the workplace. She wasn't just part of the team, she was in charge of keeping the team in line. And now she was at the center of the scandal. Her body language on camera told the story before the internet did. That moment of frozen panic, hands over her face, eyes darting away, it was a silent confession broadcast to tens of thousands. And the damage didn't stop at embarrassment. In a world obsessed with power dynamics, this wasn't just messy, it raised real questions. Had Kristen's role, salary, or influence been affected by her connection to Andy? Were company resources involved? Had any rules been quietly bent behind closed doors? And remember, this is the head of HR, the woman whose entire job was to prevent this exact kind of situation. As the video went viral, sleuths online didn't need much time. Within hours, Kristen's identity was confirmed. Her name began trending alongside Andy's. And almost just as quickly, Astronomer's website quietly erased her profile. Gone. No public explanation, no press release, just a disappearing act that said everything without saying a word. The woman who once upheld the company's code of conduct was now Exhibit A in its most humiliating meltdown.
While the internet was howling with jokes and reaction clips, one person stayed completely silent. Andy's wife, Megan. No tweets, no public meltdown, no cryptic Instagram quotes. Just silence. But her silence said everything. First, she quietly removed Byron from her last name on Facebook. Then her Instagram vanished. No dramatic unfollowing spree, no public confrontation. Just gone. Like she'd flipped a switch. Friends said it was instant. No hesitation, no questions asked. The clip spoke for itself. Her husband had been caught, not rumored, not speculated, caught on camera, cozied up with another woman, while tens of thousands watched it unfold live. It wasn't a whisper campaign. It was a stadium-wide scream. But Megan didn't scream. She responded with quiet, cold clarity. And then the news broke. She had filed for divorce. Not just walking away, demanding $30 million in damages. That's right, $30 million, almost half of Andy Byron's estimated net worth, evaporating because of one kiss cam, one choice, one very public betrayal. Some called it revenge, but those close to Megan said otherwise. She wasn't out for blood, she was out for justice. This was a woman who had stood beside Andy from the very beginning. While he was building his tech empire, she was building their home, raising their kids, showing up to events with a smile, while he posted about leadership and loyalty. She'd lived through the speeches and the summits, and now she was being blindsided in the most humiliating way possible. She didn't ask for a scandal. She didn't leak a thing. She simply made her decision and let the paperwork do the talking. And the internet noticed. TikTok was flooded with Coldplay clips set to sad breakup songs. When you try your best but you don't succeed, played over footage of Andy ducking behind the railing like a guilty teenager. Twitter was full of memes, but the overwhelming tone? Support, sympathy, respect. Suddenly, Megan wasn't just the betrayed wife. She became a symbol of self-respect, of quiet strength, of not tolerating the bare minimum. And the $30 million wasn't just a payout. It was a message.
At first, the company tried to stay quiet. But silence doesn't hold for long when your CEO is starring in a viral cheating scandal that just cost him his marriage. Andy Byron wasn't officially fired, but Astronomer issued a short, sterile statement. He's been suspended indefinitely. Translation? The board was panicking. A suspension without a timeline almost always means one thing: an internal investigation. And that wasn't just about Andy and Kristen sneaking around. No, this was about damage control. The questions were flying behind closed doors. How long had the relationship been going on? Were company funds used for their little rendezvous? Did Kristen receive any promotions or perks that weren't fully earned? And here's the kicker. Kristen Kabat wasn't just any employee. She was in charge of enforcing workplace boundaries. Her job was literally to prevent inappropriate power dynamics, the very kind she was now accused of participating in. And just like that, her name vanished from Astronomer's website. Her profile was gone. Her LinkedIn went dark. No press conference, no farewell post, no damage control interview. She didn't resign, she disappeared. Meanwhile, the company's social media, especially LinkedIn, turned into a battlefield. Old posts about company values and ethical leadership became punching bags for angry commenters. One sarcastic reply went viral under a corporate HR post. Let's talk about boundaries in the workplace, starting with the kiss cam. It was brutal. Employees started whispering. Investors started sweating. Partners started distancing themselves. Because in tech, it's not just about performance, it's about perception. And Andy Byron had become toxic. Astronomer didn't just lose a CEO, they lost credibility. And Andy, he didn't fight it. He handed in his resignation, quietly, without a final speech or public defense. He knew it was over.
With his resignation signed and his wife gone, Andy Byron was no longer a CEO, no longer a husband, just a face the internet couldn't stop dragging. And then the final blow hit the headlines. Andy Byron was broke. Now let's be real. He wasn't selling furniture on Craigslist or sleeping in his car, but sources close to him say he's financially shaken. The divorce alone could drain half his net worth, not including legal fees, alimony, or whatever quiet settlements might come from within the company. This was a man used to million-dollar contracts, private flights, and VIP status at every tech summit. Suddenly, he was stuck in what one insider called an emotional tailspin, losing sleep, avoiding calls, watching everything he built slip through his fingers, not because of a competitor, not because of market failure, because of a kiss he thought no one would notice, on a random night in a crowded stadium. And now, everything was gone. LinkedIn turned into a graveyard of past glories. People were digging up old posts where Andy once preached about transparency, honor, and leading with trust. Now those same posts were flooded with comments like, "Trust from a guy hiding behind a railing?" Even the company he founded was trying to erase him, and online, his name had become a punchline. But the public wasn't done. Because while Andy tried to hide from the spotlight, Megan, the wife he betrayed, became something else entirely. A symbol, not of scandal, but of strength.
When Andy Byron's scandal broke, internet sleuths didn't just laugh. They compared. And one name came up over and over again. Jeff Bezos. Because if this Coldplay kiss felt familiar, that's because we've seen this movie before, starring the richest man on Earth. Rewind to 2019. Jeff Bezos, then the CEO of Amazon, was caught in a scandal involving Sánchez, a former news anchor who was not his wife. Just like Andy, Bezos was married at the time. Just like Andy, he got caught by a camera. Except in Bezos' case, it was private messages and compromising photos that leaked. And just like Andy, Jeff's affair wasn't with some random nobody. It was with a woman who already had power, connections, and, you guessed it,
a corporate role of her own. But here's the difference. Bezos controlled the narrative. He released a statement, called out the media, and spun the entire scandal into a reinvention story. He divorced his wife, made Lauren his public partner, and went on to live his best yacht-filled, spacefaring billionaire life. Andy Byron did the opposite. He vanished. No statement, no reinvention, no control over the narrative. Just silence. And in today's digital world, if you don't tell your story, someone else will. Reddit told it, TikTok told it, Coldplay fans told it, and none of it favored Andy. What made things worse? The comparison to Bezos made Andy look small. Bezos lost billions in the divorce and didn't flinch. Andy, he lost his job and spiraled. Even the memes turned brutal. Jeff got a rocket, Andy got a Jumbotron.
A week after the concert, Coldplay had already moved on. New cities, new fans, new shows. But the internet? It hadn't forgotten a thing. Clips of Andy Byron and Kristen Kabat were now everywhere. The kiss, the smirk, the zoom in. Reposted, remixed, memed into oblivion. TikTok creators acted it out. Twitter turned it into a thread war. LinkedIn influencers used it as a cautionary tale. Even HR professionals were weighing in with posts like, "Don't be the CEO who gets fired at Coldplay." Kristen Kabat, the chief people officer turned side chick, tried to lay low. But you can't be a chief people officer and get caught in one of the most people-facing scandals of the year. Her name's been quietly scrubbed from the Astronomer website. Internal sources say she's on extended leave, but nobody's buying that. The worst part, there's no real end to this story. No matter how many statements Andy might release or how much time passes, the internet has already locked him in its digital hall of shame. He's not remembered as a tech visionary or a startup genius. He's remembered as that guy who got caught cheating on the Jumbotron at Coldplay. That's the thing about the internet. It doesn't just cancel you. It rewrites your legacy. And the next time you see a happy couple on a stadium screen, you'll wonder what's happening just out of frame.
In the end, Andy Byron didn't just lose his job or his privacy. He lost control of his image, his narrative, and his future in tech. One moment of arrogance, broadcast to tens of thousands, became the moment the world decided who he really was. This wasn't just a cheating scandal. It was a power play gone wrong. A reminder that in today's world, being at the top doesn't protect you. It exposes you. Especially when the spotlight isn't a metaphor. It's a literal Jumbotron. Because in the digital age, mistakes aren't private. They're viral. They're forever. And they don't fade with the music.